are tuning in to this live in post, like not live, and you're watching it on the feed, feel free to just scroll ahead like 2 minutes because we're just gonna wait a minute or two until all of our friends come in and join. So just give it a minute or two and then yeah, you can kind of just push forward. How is everyone doing? Hi guys, hello. Welcome back to Expert Talks. Oh my gosh, and we have Sleep Sense here. Yes, hello Dana. Hi everyone, we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. If you don't know, my name is Anisha. Welcome back to our second round of Expert Talks. This is gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. So make sure you tell your friends, come on, let's get going. Join the live, come say hi, come hang out with us for a little bit. Today is a really special day. We are going to be talking about being a mompreneur. Momtrepreneur or mompreneur? Which one? Which one is it? I'm really curious. But regardless, amazing. Oh my gosh, we love mompreneurs. Hi guys, hi. Hi, nice to meet you too. Hi everyone. Yes, we love boss business mama bears. So we're gonna be talking all about that today. We have a really special guest. Hang on. Let me get her up here. Okay, guys, today we have the lovely Miss Dana Obleman. Hang her up. She is here. She's going to teach us all about being a mompreneur. I'm so excited, you guys. Hello. Hi, Dana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Am I pronouncing your name right, first of all? Dana
Yeah.
Obleman?
It's Dana Obleman. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's so nice to meet you. You guys, Dana's here. It is so exciting. Let me just talk you up for a quick second. For those of you who don't know, she's a lovely mom and businesswoman. You've helped over 109,000 parents, I believe, since 2003. Incredible. You've been seen on CNN, let me see, Washington Post, Good Morning America, Today's Parent, Baby Talk, and more. We have a boss business lady in our midst. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Dana. Thanks for hanging out with us.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm excited to learn all the good that you have to share. And I'm going to start with the most general question ever. How did you do it? How did you balance being a boss mom and just a mom? How did you do it?
Well, I was a teacher before I became an entrepreneur. I taught in a grade 1 classroom, and I was in Canada, so we get a nice 12-month maternity leave there. So when I went on maternity leave, I actually told my colleagues that I wouldn't come to my baby shower unless they called it my retirement party, because I was so committed to the idea of not coming back to my job as a teacher, but I had no idea what other job I would possibly be able to do. And I spent that sort of first 6 months with my son, and we struggled with his sleep, and it was such a tough time on all of us that I started to do the research and learn everything I could about infant sleep and how to create good sleep habits, that it just really ignited this spark within me to maybe see if I could turn it into a business. So I thought about it, obviously. It was a big leap of faith, jumping from, a job with a solid paycheck every month into the unknown of becoming an entrepreneur, which I had no experience being. I never even thought about being an entrepreneur, right. but I couldn't let it go. It was just this like need to do this thing. So I took a leap of faith. I borrowed a bit of money from my father-in-law so I could get, a website going and things like that, and just quit my job and jumped into this idea of coaching parents.
Wow.
And teaching them how to get their little ones sleeping well.
Amazing. I can imagine. I mean, what an amazing business to have. First of all, we talked a little bit about baby sleep last week, and I could not believe just the struggles that so many moms go through. And wow, all the power to you. What an incredible thing that you're doing, helping so many parents, just putting that out there just to say. And I'm also really inspired by the fact you did it with such a young child. What did your day-to-day look like when you were just starting up this business and you also had this little baby to take care of? How did you do that?
Yeah. Well, I realized in that bit of maternity leave that I needed to have more in my life. I needed to have a career as well as being a mom. I was really, loving the baby and loving being a mom, but I knew I needed a little bit more in my life to feel fulfilled. So yeah, I worked around, thankfully he was a good sleeper. So I worked around his,
Thanks to you.
yes, I worked around his nap schedule. So I worked while he was napping. I worked in the evenings, and I had to start out my business working on weekends as well. So I had to work around my husband's schedule as best I could because I didn't have extra cash to pay for a babysitter. So I got really good at being organized. I was really dedicated to my day timer. So I was clear about like what were my mommy roles in the day as far as doing things with Charlie, and then what were my top goals for the day as far as getting the business going and working with my clients. And so it really did force me, and teachers are kind of organized people anyway, so that helps.
I would think so.
But yeah, getting really organized and really being diligent about holding myself accountable to the list of to-dos that I had every day was really important for moving my business forward.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine it's probably a little bit of Tetris trying to make sure your schedules work and working with a sleeping baby too. I can imagine you're kind of on their schedule. So organization is key. What a great tip to take away. The other thing I was kind of curious about was, obviously organizing is one thing and all of that helps you keep those goals getting checked off. But would you say that you had any like personal goals that you found sort of you ended up hitting because like you mentioned, you started to feel like you wanted to be fulfilled in different ways. So on a personal level, do you find starting your business helped you grow as a human and subsequently a mom because you were just more fulfilled in that way?
Oh, absolutely. I think a mother's happiness and fulfillment is crucial actually to the health and happiness of the entire family, right? And so yeah, I think it was really important for me to follow this dream that I had to start this business. And it's been almost like 18 years now, and I have 3 kids now, and they've been able to watch this journey that I've been on through their lifetime, really. And I think it's also taught them, a really valuable lesson that you can do whatever you want, and you can create your own business, and you can follow your own passions and your own dreams. So I do think that, being an entrepreneur is a really good lesson for our children on, what it looks like to create your own business and be your own boss.
Yeah. I think watching someone who is already a role model because, they're your mom, but watching them be so resilient through something as difficult as running a business is extremely inspiring to a young mind. Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. And I know with when you initially started your business, it was kind of like, you know what, I just want to do what I want. But when it comes to when your second 2 children started coming into question, how did you manage that? Did you plan your pregnancies before returning back to work? Did you sort of make that a schedule as well?
Well, I started my business going out to people's homes. So I was driving a lot, around the lower mainland of Vancouver and seeing clients in their house. And once I got pregnant with my second son, I thought, I don't know that that's going to be maintainable, right? With a newborn and a toddler. And I was getting a little burnt out by doing the evenings and weekends thing. And I felt ready to take that next step. So I got an office in downtown Vancouver, and I had 2 days a week where I saw clients in my office. and it did mean that I had to get some childcare, right? I had to get a nanny in for a couple of days a week to take care of the boys so that I could work. But I had grown my business during that time to a place where I was comfortable enough financially to be able to bring on some help. And I think that that's really important. If you're an entrepreneur, the only way you can grow your business is if you free up some more time. I mean, you cannot grow a business, you know, around nap time in the evenings. It's a good place to start, but you have to like always be keeping your eye on what's the next step to evolve this business into something bigger. And so it just really it evolved like that. And then when I had my third child, my daughter, I decided I didn't want to go to my office anymore. So then I said, you know what, we can do this over the phone. We can do this through emails. And I just started seeing people remotely, so then I didn't have to leave the house. But I still had to have some childcare, because you cannot be a businesswoman and a mother at the exact same time. That never works.
That does not work. Sounds very overwhelming trying to do that at once.
Yes.
Wow. How inspiring is that? What a juggling act. Incredible. I love that you kind of altered and morphed your business to work with you as your family grew, as you grew, and based on what you needed. So I think that's really cool that you managed to do that. We do have a question too in the chat. And I think this is a really good question. From Marina, she says, I feel always exhausted and demotivated at the end of the day. My baby needs me and my hubby needs me, but there's so much stuff to do. Where to find this motivation? What a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And so one of the things that I did early on in the business was I had a friend who had a baby, around the same age as my son. We agreed. I said, hey, I'll watch Simon on Tuesdays if you will watch Charlie on Fridays. And then I could free up some time, right? And like I said, I didn't have the money to spend on childcare. So I just did a baby swap with a friend. And then that gave me a whole day to bang out a lot of tasks in that day. So that might be a place to consider. Could you do that to free up some time? Again, if you've got your baby on a really good napping schedule, then you've got those, you have to let the other stuff go, right? You have to. You can't use the time to do the laundry or start prepping dinner. You've got to find other times to do those things so that you can dedicate yourself, even if it's only 45 minutes, right? You can get a lot done in 30 or 45 minutes if you're organized and really holding yourself to the list and getting through all of those things.
Right. So there's something to be said about really dedicating the time towards your business and making it a non-negotiable. And
it has to be, right? It has to be a top priority. If it's important to you and if it's financially necessary for you, then you have to.
Yeah. I mean, it's you have to make all these investments in yourself. It's really like when you make that step to bringing on some help in childcare and paying for that. That's not just, you're not just needing help. It's also an investment in yourself to give yourself more time to work on something that you really care about. So I really like that perspective. Marina, I hope that answered your question. Yeah, I think we should all invest in ourselves a little bit more. Would you say that's something you try to ensure spreads to a lot of your clients, when helping them with sleep? It's not only just, we want your baby to sleep and we want you to feel okay. We also want to encourage the mom to be able to, fulfill themselves in other ways and be strict with their time and find those pockets of peace for themselves.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, if you sleep is a necessity, right? We trick ourselves into thinking it's not, but it is. Without sleep, you suffer. Your body suffers. Your mind suffers. We know now that sleep deprivation, prolonged sleep deprivation affects everything from your mood to your heart health to your weight, you name it. Sleep deprivation will impact it. So, giving back that necessity to parents, right? To say, listen, your sleep is a priority. Once you start sleeping better, then you have more energy to, do things that you love again, whether it's, fitness or getting out and visiting with friends or, just having
Starting
a life again. What's that?
Yeah.
Running a
Starting
business.
a business.
Yeah, totally. So
Wow.
you it's a gift. I always say, hey, teaching your baby to sleep well is a gift you're giving to everyone.
Oh, I love that. I lived with a baby for a year. A friend of mine, my roommate, she had a baby, and let me tell you, my sleep suffered, and that's nothing compared to what my dear friend went through. And once that kind of got into the motion, and actually it was similar to what you were saying. Once she started putting really strict non-negotiables through her time, investing in childcare, and saying, I'm doing this because in the long run, it's going to help me, and making those strict decisions. I think she was a lot happier after. Her baby was so much happier, and both parties were fulfilled in many ways. So I really like that concept. Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. We should all actually take that into life, moms or not. Put yourself first, right?
Of course, yes.
I have kind of a really specific question, and this is kind of a question for me too. And it's not just necessarily during maternity leave, but there is this big fear about losing your professional skills when you take time away from work. And of course, today we're talking about maternity leave. So where does that fear come from, and how do you avoid it? Or do you just keep working during maternity leave? What do you do to kind of combat that?
Yeah. So, I think if you're an entrepreneur, that's always a fear, right? If you step away from your business for 3 months, 6 months or longer, what will you come back to? Will there be anything to come back to? And so for me, I did take maternity leave, but I still had to keep my foot on the gas a little bit with the business, right? So that meant, spending a couple of hours every week, reaching out to my audience and planning some marketing strategies and just making sure that people didn't forget about me so that when I was ready to come back, that they would be there. So I think it's tricky. I mean, there's pros and cons to being an entrepreneur. I think the pros outweigh the cons, but if there are cons, it's really tough to take a totally work-free holiday. That's kind of tough. Because there might be clients you need to check up on. It's tough to take a total, back right off your business.
Completely turned off.
Yeah, it's hard. So I think
gather it's impossible.
Yeah, you have to be realistic in it, right? And if that means, who can you ask to help? Can your partner watch the kids for a couple of hours so you can focus on getting a few tasks done? Or do you have a family member that could help out for a while? Like you have to be strong enough to say, I still need this time. Yes, we're taking a break and having more children, but I still need to have this little bit of time that I'm dedicating to the business.
Right. Not only for the business, but also for your mental health as well.
Sure.
To keep that moving forward. Interesting. Okay. I like that. Do you find often, well, I've heard stories of a lot of moms going full force right back into work because they're afraid of stopping at all. And would you say that it's better to kind of take a slower approach or just listen to what you need, really?
I feel really sorry for those mothers that have jobs that demand that they come back after, 3 weeks. Like that doesn't make any logical sense to me. We're not doing anyone a service by forcing women to do this. We're hurting families. It's a disaster as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, if you have to, you have to. Some people have no choices at all. So I guess my advice in those scenarios would be, let's get this baby on a good sleep schedule right from the get-go so that you're not walking into the office completely, sleep deprived and frazzled before the day even starts. And then having that childcare piece of is important, that you have that trust with your childcare, that that they're doing the things that you want them to do while you're not there, is really important. But if you can take the time, again, if you can even drop it down to part-time, for the first couple of months. I think, that makes it an easier transition for everybody in the family.
Yeah. Well, you talk a lot about, setting boundaries and setting those non-negotiable times. And I think it takes a little bit of practice to set those habits.
Mm-hmm.
And so jumping right into that right away, I can imagine would be really difficult to set those boundaries. And rather, maybe if you have the option to slow down and slowly make your way back into it, it might be more beneficial in the long run.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Difficult. Oh my gosh. Moms are so hardcore. Hey.
Yes,
we
are.
I just take my hat off. Every year I get more and more inspired by my own mom. And it surprises me how right she is and how frustrating it is every time, because she's always right, no matter what. She said, you're going to understand me about this in 1 year. And then I did. And it's just a constant cycle. And I take my hat off to you. My mom has 4. So.
Okay. Good for her.
I know. I can't. Yeah. One day I'll live up to her her skills, mom skills. But when it comes to having lots of lots of children or a larger family, and now you're juggling multiple kids and you have more distractions when you're working from home, how do you manage that? If you don't necessarily have childcare, and I know you said can't be a mom and a businesswoman at the same time. What if you don't have an option?
I mean, it's really tough. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I was trying to juggle, taking client calls with my son, like right underfoot, and I'm trying to get lunch on the table while I'm checking my emails. And I realized quickly that leads to burnout. That leads to harsh burnout. And so it's important, and I would say do not do it, right? Like just flat out don't do it. So that's when I started saying, like, this morning chunk of time is dedicated to my son, and here's the things we're going to do through the morning. And then I take that hat off and put on my other hat, my entrepreneur hat, and then I get down to business. And then I only have calls during nap time, or I only have calls scheduled in the evening. And, I would say that has to be the way you do it, because otherwise you're going to feel guilty about everything. Yeah. You're going to feel guilty that you're not giving your son enough attention or your kids enough attention. You're going to feel guilty that you're not really being present with your clients, or you're not really spending the time you need on your business. You're trying to be in 2 worlds at the same time, and it won't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine you're really not present with anything in your life at that point, because you can't be present with yourself, your work, or your kids, because you're constantly worried about one of the 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very difficult. I think for those that have just joined or who haven't been here since the beginning, I think this is a really good reminder of kind of those main 3 points. If you find that these distractions and overwhelming moments are happening, you can either decide whether or not to invest in childcare, or the genius idea of a baby swap. I love that. Call a friend. Can we hang out, switch our babies around? I'll take your baby for the day. You take my baby for the day. What a great idea. How did you manage that? You called a friend one day and you were just like, I need to do it?
Yeah. I mean, we met in a prenatal class. Right. So there was a few people who had babies exactly the same time as I did. And we just stayed in touch, and we lived not that far away from each other. So we would get together every now and then with the kids. And just one day I was like, listen, I need time. Do you need time? And she's like, oh, heck yeah, I need time. I'm like, let's do this thing. Let's switch babies. So we did that for a couple of years.
That was really, really awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So when it comes to community, that's another thing that's really important, relying on those around you. But it also brings up the point, a lot of moms, especially because moms are, have to be so hardcore, so strong all the time, have trouble asking for help.
Right. So
where do you pull that vulnerability from when you don't want to admit that you need a little bit of help? Where do you pull that from?
Yeah, again, I think when you don't do that, you learn some lessons the hard way, and you learn that you're burning yourself out, right? You're burning yourself out. And then you're showing up not your best self with anybody, right? You're taking out your frustrations on your partner, or you're feeling, irritated at your children. And if you're kind of feeling this like low level irritation on a daily basis, it means you're burning out. It means you're doing too much. And so, you know, getting clear, and I think especially with partners, you know, I made a list of things that needed to get done that week, right? Like the laundry, the groceries, the meal prep, all the things that have to happen. And then I would just say, hey, could you look at that list and like pick 5 things that you could do this week so that we can space this out a bit better. I did get a house cleaner really early on in my career. You know, we weren't, my husband was like, we can't afford that. And I was like, I don't really care because we have to have this. Like, this is something that has to happen. Yeah. So we did get every a second week, we had a house cleaner come in because something's got to give, right? Like you can't, you literally cannot do everything. You can do, I like the quote, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Because that's just the truth. So get creative and you know, stand up for yourself and be okay with saying like, this, if I'm going to start a business, I have to let some other things go.
Right. I can imagine. When it comes to the pressure that being an entrepreneur, or I should ask, did you start to feel any pressure of being an entrepreneur, and did you start to maybe bring that into the family, and vice versa? Did you start to feel the stress of the family at work? How did you deal with those kinds of issues?
I mean, being an entrepreneur can be a lonely road, right? And especially in the business that I created, there wasn't anyone else doing this, right? Like I really did kind of just make up my own job. So I was kind of just flying blind a little bit in that beginning, in that, you know, those first 6 months or so. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was very good at asking for help, and I would find other people within my community. You know, I had a friend who was a really great salesperson. I had a friend who did PR for an internet company that she worked for. So I would just say, hey, like, I need your help. Like, tell me your top tips for how you know, close a client, and how do you get on TV or in the newspaper. So I was very good about asking people around me that knew more than I did, right? I was okay to say, hey, I don't know anything about this topic. I need to learn it. So somebody please help me. So, you know, I think that that's a great strategy for a new entrepreneur, is find people that know more than you do and then learn from them. And that, again, will keep you out of overwhelm, you know, and know that you can't do everything all at once. You have to pace yourself. Business takes time to grow, right? 1 to 3 years is pretty normal startup times for new businesses. That 1 to 3 year space is considered startup. So know that, you know, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and you have to pace yourself.
What a great little piece of advice. Very true. Yeah, it's kind of about that long-term gain and, you know, short-term pain, shall we say. The initial part of starting a business is the worst. Yeah, definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done. I couldn't imagine doing it with a little one at my side. So, wow. Great advice. Circling back to kind of that whole asking for help thing, and you know, pulling that, or keeping that separate rather from your safety net, which is your family and the people you love around you. I'm curious to know, did you ever have any moments where you felt you needed to make some serious changes in your schedule or the way you were doing anything? Or was there ever just a moment where you were like, I think I just need to change what I'm doing and how I'm approaching my life as a mompreneur?
You know, I'm pretty proactive about stuff like that. Like if I've got a problem, I like to find solutions. So I didn't really let myself get to a place where I was like underwater and really struggling. I recognized early on, like I said, I didn't want to drive around to clients anymore. So I got an office, and then I didn't want to go to the office, so I did it remotely. And then we started the certification piece of my business, where I train other people to become sleep sense consultants. And that was a great evolution in our business. And it also ignited a new spark in me, right? If you're starting to feel a little, lethargic about the business and a little demotivated, trying to add another layer is a great way to infuse it with some energy and renewed passion. So that led me into like, hey, I really love entrepreneurship, and I really love to see women step into ownership over their own careers in a meaningful way. And still, because I'd been reaping the benefits of this for 5 years before we started this, of having a decent balance. I don't think it's ever perfect balance, but a decent balance between family life and my career. And I really wanted to offer that to other women. And now, we've grown a global network of Sleep Sense consultants, and I'm really proud of that. And it definitely is a passion of mine.
Wow, that is so amazing. Just it's always so inspiring to see women succeed in life, especially moms, especially doing it with all the adversity that we have to face being female in this world. So inspiring, and I can't wait to see what you do next, and how many more people you talk to and help. And I think that's really awesome. I noticed something throughout this whole conversation. You have a very strong quality about you. The only word I could use to describe it is awareness. It seems as though you have a very strong awareness about your needs as a human being. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people to learn. We're all still kind of learning it sometimes. But that quality, I mean, I know I just pointed it out, but do you think that that's something that has helped you kind of stay a little bit grounded throughout this whole thing, is just really paying attention to how you feel throughout this whole experience?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I take living your best life, I take it to heart, and it's something that I try to model daily. So yeah, if I'm feeling burnt out or down, or something's not working right, or I need more help or support, I'm pretty good at raising the flag and being like, okay, let's figure out, let's pivot, let's find a new way to do this better, so that I can, because I think, not only do I feel like I deserve it, right? I deserve to be a happy person, but also that happiness then affects everyone in my family, right? Then it leads to a better quality of life for everybody. If that saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Like everybody, if mom's not happy, everybody in that house is going to be feeling the effects of that.
Especially busy moms, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to have something to fill it. That's right. Wow, that's just so awesome. I'm curious to know how being a businesswoman affects your relationship. Now, I know we talked a lot about being a mom, but how do you balance being a wife?
Yeah, well, my husband was my biggest champion from the get-go. When I pitched this like crazy idea to quit my job and start this business, he was the first one to say, go for it, like do it. So having a supportive partner made a huge difference for me. And then another cool evolution was that after the first 2.5 years of the business, when we started moving it to an online product, then he could leave his job and come and work at Sleep Sense. So he's my business partner, has been my business partner now for 16 years. And that's a whole other discussion, but somehow we make it work.
I'm probably going to pick your brain on that. Wow, that's amazing. I can only imagine you guys have had to work on some major communication in your relationship. What an incredible thing to accomplish together. That's so awesome. How do you manage that? Is that tough sometimes?
I mean, it's absolutely got its challenges. Like some people, when they hear me say that, they're like, oh, I could never work with my partner. But we have very separate roles. And the things that I love to do, he would hate to do, and the things that he likes to do, I would hate to do. It's great that we are both kind of in our own corners doing our own things that we love to do, and then we collaborate and work together on the things that we you know, the planning and the business and moving the business forward. So, but we're not in each other's day to day. So that's helpful. And I also realized early on that we needed separate space. So he works from home. I work in an office. And that gives me the transition that I need. Like I'm at work right now and then I'm at home, and he doesn't really need that. So he's fine working from home, but that was a big key to our success, is like we need some space.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I can only imagine. It's interesting when you say, as soon as you said I'm at work now, that kind of made me think about how I needed to make sure that I had a really specific workplace in my own home.
Yes.
Once the pandemic happened, a lot of us did. Do you think that having the right space is a really important part of your business?
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge. I just did a few months ago, I did a challenge with my consultants. I was like, let's do your workspace makeover. Like if you've been working at the kitchen table for the last year, it's time for you to figure out something more sustainable. So like people are getting super creative. Somebody set up a beautiful little office space in her walk-in closet.
What?
Like just, yeah. And somebody did like their entranceway became her office. So I mean, people got really creative, but for me, I mean, I don't know that it's the same for everybody, but I need to feel sort of, I need nice things. I need organization. I need to kind of feel like, you know, when you walk in, it sort of lifts you up. And having that dedicated space, I think, is really important. Even if it's just, you know, a little desk in the corner of your bedroom, you know, just knowing that that's where I go when I work, and then everything else is my home life.
Yeah. I completely agree with that, especially on the pretty things part. You know, sometimes being surrounded by little things that inspire. I mean, gosh, look around me. I've got a pink feather lamp.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't it everything? I got, what do I got? A pink little hourglass. I've never used this before, but it looks adorable on my desk. And you better believe I'm going to keep it there. Oh, and I have the best part of my desk, my nameplate.
Oh, awesome. I love that.
So I fully agree with that. When you set up a space to inspire you, it subsequently makes you work harder. Is that just me?
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
For sure, for sure. Wow, that's really helpful. And did you put like strict rules with your husband as well? Like this is my space, non-negotiable, and vice versa for him?
Yeah, we're pretty good about it, and we also don't talk. We try not to talk about work in the evenings or when it's like off hours, so that work doesn't trickle into every piece of our day. Yeah, that's been important too.
Good. Non-negotiables. Yeah. That's a reoccurring theme today. I'm noticing a lot of non-negotiables and really being strict with the things that you need. I really love that.
You have to
be strict with yourself as you are with your kids.
Because you're your own boss, right? If you work for a boss, then your boss holds you accountable for these things. Right. But if you become your own boss, you have to now become accountable for those things.
That is a really, really good point. So simple, but very often forgotten. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you find with this, strong acceptance and motivation that you give yourself, do you ever find that motherhood kind of just affects that sometimes? And it's just been a rough day. My poor guy's been crying all morning. And how do you combat that when it starts to affect, real things like productivity and it starts to really affect you?
Yeah. I mean, a day here and there. I mean, if a kiddo is sick and you can't take them to the sitters, or, you're just having a day where you're like, I just feel like staying in my pajamas today and doing not much. That's fun. Like, go for it. Take those days. Take those little like mental health days, whatever you want to call them. Just keep an eye. I always give myself a one-off, right? But I try not to repeat it the next day and the next day, because then it feels like that could lead to a rut I get stuck in. But yeah, I mean, you got to cut yourself a break, and life's gonna happen, and these things are all okay.
I love that. Yeah, just being a little bit kinder to ourselves.
Yeah.
I think I heard you say kind of not getting stuck in a cycle of it or in a rut.
Right.
Yeah, I've been told before the concept of the J curve by my therapist, and that concept of, when things are bad, you get to here and it gets a little bit better, and then you have a choice. You either keep pushing through that really hard part and it goes up, or it drops again, and you keep going through that cycle. And I think pushing past that really tough little point and just being like, okay, I can do it, makes a huge difference.
I love that. I love that. I've never heard of that, but I think that that's so true, because
yeah, there's that one moment that sucks.
well, yeah, because sometimes we're waiting for motivation to strike. Like you're sitting in your little, depressed hole, and you're waiting for inspiration to strike. But inspiration doesn't strike until you take some action, right? Like you got to get your butt out the door, and then the walk makes you feel better. Like you have to push. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you've ever done something similar. I often keep an inspiration list, I like to call it, with me. Things that generally inspire me. Really simple stuff, like going for a walk, like you just said, or painting, or I don't know, watching Bob Ross. Like there's like so many little things that make people inspired. And yeah, pulling that out, I think, is a good tip. Really helpful. That. I love this awareness that you really, I don't know, I'm in a aware mood. Like I feel I'm very present right now. Like I want to reevaluate a lot of things in life. I find a lot of the things you're saying are just very inspiring, truthfully.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I do have a couple more questions to pick your brain, just a few more, and then I promise I'll leave you alone. But
okay.
I got too many questions. I guess my main thing is how to stay. It's kind of similar sort of to what Marina asked, but how do you stay inspired and motivated when everything is on fire? So it's sort of similar, like that, kid is crying and everything is going crazy, and sure, we could take a mental health day, but what if you don't have that option and you just have to finish something, but literally everything around you is just exploding?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those moments?
I mean, I think remembering that they're just moments, right? Mm-hmm. Like this isn't going to last forever. This is just a moment where everything feels a little bit chaotic. If you can even just take, 3 or 4 or 5 like mindful breaths in that space, like just to remember this is a moment, this is going to pass, what can I do to manage whatever crisis is happening in the moment? And knowing that multitasking is not really a real thing. Like again, that kind of leads to like you're doing a little bit here, and you're just feeling bad about all of it because you're not really you're not giving it your full awareness. So what in this moment needs your full awareness? Tackle that first, and then we can move on to the next and the next and the next, and taking those deep breaths, and even just planning little breaks through your day. Like we as moms and busy entrepreneurs, we don't really get to have a whole day of luxury, right? That doesn't really happen, but planning a little bit of like rejuvenation into your day, even if it's just a 10-minute cup of tea in some relative silence, or whatever it is that you can just like take these little mini breaks throughout the day. I find that like refills the tank, right? So that you have a little bit more to give when you come back. Because women they often run themselves like they were on empty hours ago, and they're still, burning the fumes. Yeah. And that's not going to help anybody.
No, it doesn't go anywhere, because at the end of the day, you're not going to progress as a human being either, because you're just running on nothing. Yeah, very interesting. I love that. It kind of comes back down to that just awareness of oneself and recognizing what you need. I love that. Well, I won't make you repeat yourself too much. I want to ask your best tip for being a mompreneur. Now, to a quick recap for those who weren't here from the beginning, it's organization, scheduling, Tetris, such a awesome, like just hardcore. You plan your self-care, you plan your business time, and you plan your kid time. And that is like non-negotiable. Yeah, such a great tip. Another one was self-awareness. We talked about a lot, just being really, introspective and listening to your needs. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of really strong boundaries. But do you have any just like, I don't know, hacks? What's your best tip? Like, what the hell? How do you survive?
Yeah, well, I teach a lot about mindset to my consultants. I think mindset is everything. And I really believe in what you put out into this world, you get back, and our thoughts become things. And all of that is something I strongly believe in. So, and having that, when I started this business, like I said, I knew nothing, and it was a brand new career that I literally just made up. But I had I had a failure is not an option kind of attitude about it, because I didn't want to go back to that teaching job. I really was clear about that. So I was willing to do whatever it took to make it work, because there was no other option in my mind. And I think that that's really important for new entrepreneurs, because there's going to be days where you just want to pack it in, and there's going to be days where it feels hard and hopeless and impossible. But if you just keep coming back to that, like, belief in yourself, and belief that this will work if you do the work. I think that that's the key. I mean, I've trained probably 500 or 600 consultants over the years, and that is the one thing that really sets apart the successful entrepreneur from the one that packs it in after a meager try. Is just that mindset, that keeping that mental space really clear and focused and positive, and putting out what you want to see come back to you.
I love that. That's really beautiful. It kind of all comes back down to intention and why you're doing the dang thing. Just do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Wow, such great advice. Oh my gosh. I can't. For the last 2 weeks, I've learned so much about being a mom. I'm not a mom, obviously, you can probably tell. But I have to say, I find you very inspiring. I learned so much today, and I can only imagine all the moms that came to hang out with us today feel very knowledgeable. I can't thank you enough for coming to hang out with us again. And please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can book in a session with you. If anybody is struggling with baby sleep, we have Dana here. So please go ahead. We'll put it in the chat. Make sure everybody can find you.
Yeah, well, you can check out the website. It's sleepsense.net. Or you can follow me on Instagram under Sleep Sense, or I'm on Facebook under Dana Obleman. Lots of ways to reach out to me. So I look forward to hearing from some of you.
Yes. Okay. So sleepsense.net, you guys, we will post everything on the page, so you will have no trouble finding Dana. We'll make sure that all of your stuff is front and center on our page. Thank you again for coming to hang out with us.
It was fun.
Guys, don't forget to come back next week. We have more expert talks. Once again, I am Anisha. Thank you so much, Dana. And guys, we will see you all next week for the next one. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks.
So
Bye,
much,
everybody.
Dana. Bye, everyone.
Bye.